What's up, everyone? Welcome back to 1YL or 1 Year Later. As you know, my name is Corey, and this is a podcast show amplifying the voices of people taking adversity into their own hands and changing their world and the world around them. And today, when I talk about world changers, this person has come to mind, was top of my list in wanting to have you guys all listen to his story of what has happened in the last 365 days. Jesse Stedman, welcome to 1YL.
Well, dude, thank you so much. That's very kind. You're at the top of my list when I think of world changers too. So,
Well, then it's going to be great company. This is going to be incredible. Okay, well, I want to get straight to the chase because you have had quite the last year. And for those of the people that are listening, Jesse and I haven't really caught up in quite a while. So you're going to witness us catching up, just like over a cup of coffee. But also, I'm going to start with a couple of accolades that I want to tell you guys all about Jesse, even though you know this show is not about accolades, this is about story. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Jesse. So Jesse and I were roommates actually, which is an epic part of our story. He was down here in Southern California, grew up in Northern California, and while he was down here, was working at a local church, and then found his way into the nonprofit world. That was working for a nonprofit out of Central California, then made his way to Denver area, and is now, in my opinion, running the sustainability game in the sport of disc golf. And for those of you who don't know what disc golf is, you should definitely look up Trash Panda, which I will link below, because I didn't really understand or have any concept of what disc golf was until I stumbled upon Trash Panda, and now I'm the biggest fan. So Jesse is awesome, and you're going to hear a little bit more about what all of that means in just a second by him sharing his story. But first of all, Jesse, thanks for being here, and I can't wait to catch up a little bit.
I know I was gonna say it's like we used to catch up with pillow talk, and now it's just over Zoom. It's the ultimate 1 year later. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, Jesse, here's where we're going to get started. I want to know, where were you physically, emotionally, mentally 365 days ago? We're like mid-April 2020. Take us back. What were you doing, and what was it feeling like?
so this is actually crazy because you don't know this, and we didn't plan this to be on this day. But as Corey said, I went and I was working for a nonprofit out of Central California. Before COVID, that went remote. I moved to Denver with my wife. We're living here, and I was still working for them. The pandemic hit, a lot of stuff happened with the nonprofit, and basically, for it to see the other side of COVID, I kind of needed to leave. And so I was actually laid off, and my very last day of work was 365 days ago,
No
literally
way.
the day we're recording this. So, yeah,
Wow.
I was laid off exactly a year ago. And it's been a wild year since, because basically when that happened, I kind of took a few weeks to decompress and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. My wife was like, "You've always wanted to start something, so just do it. Like, now's the time. The world is like impacted by everything that's going on. Like, just try to do something." And luckily, she had a stable job, and we were able to kind of take a risk like that. And simultaneously, I had taken those weeks to kind of decompress. So like today, for two weeks, the last 365 to like 350 days, I was just like decompressing, and I found myself just playing disc golf. I've played for 12 years. It's been my favorite hobby. It's what I love to do. And I just found myself doing it to decompress. And I was like, what if there's something here for me? And so, yeah, the wild part about that too is that disc golf has seen a very weird 1 year later story as well, because disc golf was a socially distanced outdoor activity that stayed open for the most part, stayed open during the quarantine. So
Mhm.
it blew up too. Anyone who would do anything else was playing disc golf all of a sudden. So it's grown drastically in the past year, and it's become one of the fastest growing sports. And it was something that I've always loved. And so, yeah, I kind of took a risk and started a disc golf company, which is kind of wild. So,
It's so cool. It's so cool. Well, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna hear a little bit about whatever possible roller coaster of highs and lows of the last year. You know, stepping out and starting your own thing isn't always just like the easiest thing in the world. There's a lot of trust that goes into it. There's a lot of belief in yourself that goes into it. There's a lot of loneliness that can be experienced in it. But I think one of the coolest things is like as I looked back on your year, one of the most significant pieces of the puzzle for you has been you started a YouTube channel 10 months ago that has created some incredible traction, but you also were able to capture the timeline of you creating a system that with I can only imagine one day would be creating a completely fully sustainable, purchasable discs for disc golf out of recycled materials. And for me, like having a desire to play my part in the sustainability conversation on this earth, um, like it was very inspiring to watch, and it was very inspiring to feel like oddly a part of your journey just by witnessing how
Yeah.
you were thinking through it and how you were passionately striving after instilling sustainability into a sport that isn't like wildly known as being unsustainable, but
Yeah.
you interjecting your passions as it pertains to your cause related efforts, but also your hobby of disc golf
Totally.
in a really interesting way. So, do you mind painting the picture for kind of the mission statement of Trash Panda
Yeah.
and what you're aiming to do in let's just call it the next year or two with what your hopes are for your company?
For sure. So, for those who don't know what disc golf is, let's just call it this. It's a sport that depends on two things: a great space that's outside to play, and plastic production. And those two things kind of stand in contrast to one another. At the end of the day, plastic production is harming our environment. And so, for a sport that does that, like you said, it's not an unsustainable thing. And I'm in no way trying to say, hey, let's stop using plastic. But what I am trying to say as a company is let's make moves today thinking about where we'll be in 450 years. What will disc golf and what will our earth look like after we're not here? Because a lot of people who are producing that plastic aren't thinking about that. And I
Mhm.
say 450 years, that might sound like a random number, but it's not. It's how long it takes a plastic water bottle, a single use plastic water bottle, to decompose. And when you think about that, that's like the smallest, thinnest piece of plastic you can imagine, and it takes 450 years, which is crazy. And
Crazy.
so for me, the term grow the sport is a big term in disc golf because everyone wants, not everyone, but most people want to see it grow, and they want to see it do well, and they want to see it expand and develop and become something that everyone loves because all of us who play it love it so much. And so my mission at Trash Panda is to grow the sport sustainably. So to say, hey, let's do this, but let's do it with the future in mind. Let's do it with next generation in mind. Let's do it with our grandkids in mind. Like let's
Mhm.
think about what it's going to be like then. So for me, one thing I like to say is basically what's the cost of enjoying something we hold so dear when future generations won't be able to? And for
Yeah.
me, that's a very compelling statement because I can enjoy something today not thinking about the future. And thinking about the future is a very, very big deal. So
Mhm.
for me, that, I mean, you remember we lived together, we had a little garage, and I was out there woodworking all the time. I love making things. And so I started Trash Panda thinking, okay, I'm going to make discs out of recycled plastics in my garage. How hard can it be? Turns out there's a funny answer to that question because it's very hard, but I've achieved what I wanted to do, and I've started to do it, and I can make a disc in my garage now. And it's not perfect. I'm still perfecting it. I'm still working on it. But it shows that if a dude in his garage can do this, the big companies that are producing all of this plastic can do it as well. And as the
Right.
sport's growing, sure, the amount of discs compared to the amount of plastic water bottles, not a big comparison, right? It looks like
Mhm.
small, like chump change. But
Mhm.
if the sport continues to grow, it's more and more and more. And so for me, Trash Panda exists to partner with companies and think about the future of sustainability in disc golf. And like you said, I chose to basically, uh, um, you know, market that and like tell
Hmm.
that story through YouTube, which is funny because Trash Panda did not exist and no one knew who I was 365 days ago. I literally 365 days ago, I wasn't thinking about starting it yet. I was thinking about the job I was working in that I had just been laid off from. Like, I was not thinking about it. And 2 days ago, we just passed 10,000 subscribers. So it kind of it's seen a fun year.
Man, it's like the coolest thing to just watch from afar, get to see it all unfold, but also like to know your heart behind it, like makes it so much more special to me, you know? Like one piece
Like,
of who a piece of who I am like is all about alignment and like the alignment of your heart space um with like the actual efforts of that you're doing day to day is huge for me. And that is like the epitome of what
yeah,
you're doing and who you are. And it is completely seen through everything that you are doing like on YouTube publicly, but I know is also happening in the background for the
for
development
sure.
of what you're aiming to do. And I just number one, like before we go any further, like I'm super proud of you, man, for like the way that you have aligned those pieces of your heart and the passions of your heart to then like make an impact on people's lives. Like watching you have conversations with pro disc golfers, like is an impact conversation from you to them, but also the conversation you're creating and the space you're creating to
For
inspire
sure.
other people who are finding, a mental health escape in the sport of disc golf. And they're finding just really interesting outlets through the sport of disc golf that is just so exciting. So
Yeah.
I commend you and tip my cap to you in that way,
Well,
for sure.
you mentioned it at the beginning. I mean, starting your own thing, it costs a lot. It
Mhm.
not I mean, not just financially, but like time and late nights and really the hustle and grind of what it takes to do it. And I think that, I'm 100% with you on the alignment. It's like if it's not something that I truly deeply care for and love, then it's not going to make it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
last. And so that's, I mean, I growing a channel on YouTube is not easy. Uh, Getting negative comments is not easy. Um, Having all of the things that have happened through having to do it, like editing and filming a video every week, let alone trying to learn how to inject plastics in my garage and build injection machines and wire up electronics and all this stuff I literally had no idea how to do last year. It's not easy, but when you're passionate about something, it's worth it. And for me, the environment is just like our planet is so much, it's so easy to do it for that, to do it for a future that we want to see, to do it for something that can bring a better future about. So yeah.
Huge, huge. Okay, so I kind of think I know where the answer to this question will go, but I'm going to ask it anyways. To get this arc of what your last year has really felt like, can you tell us about a couple challenges that you faced last year in getting from, laid off in your job to now 10,000 subscribers on YouTube and like selling out product in hours on your website? Um, what are some of the challenges that you have faced and either have overcome in the last year or that you continue to face? But can you describe some of those challenges to just give us a starting point for how do you got from laid off from your job to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube and selling out product on a website?
Yeah. uh I'd say the biggest challenge is just like the amount of time it's taken to learn new things. uh I mean, we've talked about YouTube, we've talked about me wiring up electronics and building an injection machine, like all these things I didn't know how to do.
Mhm.
And by the way, like if you go watch my first video, it's very apparent and clear that I am not a film guy. Like I don't make videos. And now if you watch the videos, like they've gotten a lot better and it looks like I actually know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so for me, like there was so much to learn there, But I also think that's one of the things I bring to the table with Trash Panda too, is to inspire people that like you can learn. A bunch of people comment on my videos like, what's your history? Like, is it like, what's your background? Is it in injection molding? Is it in plastics? Is it in aerodynamics or in engineering? And I'm like, all of these problems you're seeing me face, wouldn't have faced any of those if I knew what I was doing here. Like,
Right.
my background is as a pastor. And then
Right.
after that, it's in marketing. Like,
Mhm.
it has nothing to do with all of this stuff. And so I think learning was a huge challenge, but it's also something I love. And so that made it easy too. For example, I made it my goal when I started the YouTube channel to make every video one step better than the next or than the one before it.
Mhm.
And so that might mean I tried something with the lights. That might mean I tried something with the audio or the editing or the thumbnail or whatever, but every single video was one step better. And I was actively choosing what that thing was. And if you look at like watch my first video and then watch my last video,
Mhm.
and they're like so different, and it can easily look like I just like all of a sudden it clicked, but it didn't. It was, 40 videos of just step by step by step. And so I think that's an example. I think another example is when I'm, building an injection machine or wiring up the stuff I need to wire up now. Like, it's, the first time it took me 4 months. Now it takes me 4 days. But
Mhm.
like, there was a lot to learn in that process. So I think that would probably be the biggest for me. Also, like, I cared about the environment, but I wasn't educated on a lot of the stuff that has to deal with whether it's environmental issues or plastics in general. And so, yeah, I think just learning and being open to learn. Another thing about YouTube is people just comment when you're wrong and they let you know. And like being able to have my hands open and like be able to hold that and like listen is really important to me,
Mhm.
and not just like write someone off because they said something poorly, but to like actually hear it and say, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
It
Woo!
is. It is. I'm sorry.
Making the
I'm
year
not
feel like
sorry
a big
because
year.
I'm yeah, totally. But I'm sorry. I'm not sorry because it's like a
Sorry.
really great starting point for us to kind of understand because, you know, you and I have talked about this on multiple occasions. Like social media platforms can be super deceiving, and the idea of like you get 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, like it can be something that someone is like chasing after, and it just like isn't coming as seemingly as easy as it has for other people. But like for us to understand like the background of the past 10 months, like, yeah, you started out with, maybe not as great of a camera, not as great of a lens, or not a lighting kit, or,
Yeah.
background change, the effort on your editing platform probably has like shifted, and your momentum and the timing of which you've edited those videos has totally shifted. And so there's definitely like a humbling nature about hopping on YouTube and like seeing the success the way that it has kind of has left your fingertips in a sense. Like you have definitely put in the effort to be able to create something that is awesome and that you think is awesome, but like no one has to watch what you think is
No,
awesome.
no.
So there's a lot of gratitude that I hear in your heart, and there's a lot of just respect for the community that I hear in your heart, which is super cool.
Oh
uh,
yeah, I respond to every comment unless you're being a Fruit Loop dingus, and I'm not gonna respond to you. But if you're really commenting, like, I respond to every single comment, or at least heart it. It's getting hard to do now because I have so many messages coming in, but it's like it's something that's really valuable and important to me. And like the community is what it's all about. Like there's no way I solve the environmental crisis we're facing alone. Like, there's no way Trash Panda exists to just be what it is and or just be me. And part of the reason I even went for the name Trash Panda was because it was ambiguous enough that it could mean whatever people wanted it to mean. And
totally.
I think you can really have ownership of something with that. And so, yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, like my first 3 months on YouTube, my goal was 100 subscribers a month. And at that rate, in 2 months, I would hit 1,200 subscribers. So it changed. My goals changed and everything like that. But yeah, I learned new things. I realized that like the garage door closed with the fluorescent lights that I had, probably not the best move. Maybe open the garage halfway, let natural light come in, and that works a little better. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that standing so far from my camera that didn't allow an external microphone, that's not good either. Like, let's get closer and use it. But I will also say a fun fact because based off of something you said that I hope it's relatable for people and I want people to understand is, so we're currently like 1 week ago, I bought a new camera, my first purchase of a new camera. And it was to celebrate the fact that I knew I was going to hit 10,000 subscribers. So if you watch, 10 months up to 10,000, like I got to 10,000 subscribers with a camera that I bought 10 years ago. It doesn't allow an external microphone, so it sounds awful. But if you play with it and if you get close, and that's why I'm close to the camera a lot of the time, it sounds better and stuff like that. And I realized how to do the lighting better and stuff like that. And I edit everything on iMovie, so it's all edited for free on iMovie. And with all of that, people ask me a lot, especially in the disc golf community, like, what setup do you use? It looks so good. Your quality looks really good and stuff. And my goal is to make that relatable to people, to say, hey, I use something that honestly, your iPhone's better than what I use. My iPhone's better than what I use, but I've just gotten into a groove of using the camera. So
Right.
yeah, I hope it's relatable too, because you don't have to have an expensive camera to get going. You don't have to have this, that, the other thing. Like you got to just show up week after week. Just show up. That's what it takes.
Man, I couldn't relate more. For years and years, I was like, I'm not the podcast host. That's not me. That I'm like, I can't be the guy, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you wake up one morning in March when like things are still like a little bit weird in the world, and you're like, no, I am the podcast host, and I'm just gonna ask some of my friends who are doing some really epic things around the world to just like hop on, and hopefully it'll inspire a community. And the things fall into place in terms of like, you find the platform to be able to create the video, to then create the graphic, to then all of these things that like, they're not out of touch for someone else to be able to hop in and do. And quite frankly, like, I'm excited to help other people see platforms like this to be able to share their voice. I mean, one of my mission statements of my life is to help other people amplify their voice so that other people can hear them and the story that their life is telling.
Yeah.
And it's cool to just be able to use it from a platform. But I digress in a way of like making sure that we can get back to how you've gotten to where everything exists today. So,
well, really quick, I want to say, if while we were living together, I would have said you were the podcast host. So like, you might not have seen it at the time, but like, it's obvious. And like, this is very clearly a perfect, like, you're so good at that, and you're so good at like helping people tell their stories and amplifying voices and stuff like that. Like, people can have a mission statement for their life, but then people can also like actively do things to promote that and to push that forward, and you're someone who does that. So this is perfect for you.
I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot.
For sure.
Okay, so we kind of heard like what 365 days ago was. Then we have some of those challenges you faced in the last year. The next point I want to ask is, obviously there was a point last year when your injection mold machine like wasn't really working. There was probably some call outs that you had. I remember at the beginning of your YouTube channel, you would put like, this is where a potential future sponsorship like would go, like,
yeah.
Kind of like putting it out into the world, if you will. But there were some moments that then have since transitioned to, you now do have some partnerships that you're working with, and your injection machine, like, I'm seeing a lot more celebration posts than I am seeing a lot more challenges, although I know there's probably some challenges that exist. So my question to you is, can you name like 2 turning points that for you were moments in time in the last 365 days that really instilled hope in your heart to be like, okay, yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's another side of this challenge that is going to help us drive some momentum into the future to really make Trash Panda what you believe it can be.
Yeah. Whew. Um, I actually haven't told anyone this. I think probably my wife and my dad are the only people who know this, but um, there was one day I was injecting with the machine very early on, and I just put my head down and said, "This is gonna break me." It like, and I'm laughing now, but it was so heavy for me, and so like I was like, I feel like every time I learn something, it goes so far back and I know nothing. And so I'm like kind of relishing in that right now because of what you just talked about and thinking about how it was so hard at sometimes. I think if I'm being totally truthful and honest, I think there are some like getting a video to do well on YouTube, having the subscriber number go up, having like having brands reach out to say, hey, we think you're of value and we want to work with you. Like my first sponsorship was someone who reached out to me. Having like a product that we launch sell out in 3 hours that we thought we'd have enough for a week. Like that type of stuff really helps. But I think bar none, the messages and the people are the only way I've gotten through it. Like the people who have reached out and said, like the emails of support, the DMs of support, um I mean the comments of support. It's just like there's people who are commenting on every single video right away. There are people who are, messaging me that they just found my channel and it's inspired them to pick up trash when they're playing disc golf and stuff like that. Like anything like that for me is what keeps me going. And I think we've all most of us have experienced, you can get 99 compliments and like one negative comment and you just think about the negative one. And so my word to people who have done that or people who struggle with that is start a YouTube channel. You won't last if you can't take negative comments, and it just makes you start. It makes you start exercising that muscle and saying, okay, like like choosing to say this 99 is going to take so much more value for me, and that's what's going to drive me. That's what's going to keep me going. So I think if I'm being just straight up, the community, the people have gotten me through it for sure.
It's huge. It's huge. And I think the coolest part about that is like, I think in our lives, like we have seen the effects of an awesome community that has been built, then flourishing into then like this ripple effect, this domino effect, if you will, of the ability for one person to then turn into 10, then turn into 100, and the real pieces of your heart that you're trying to get out into the world all of a sudden go from like the dreams that you wake up with every day to pursue to all of a sudden you have other people who are starting to use the word we as you plus them jumping into this game and saying we will pick up trash and we will change the face of this game. And I remember a significant moment in my career when someone used the term we with something that they were not on paper assigned to.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you're like, wow, no, I'm not alone in this. And I have these people around me who are yes cheering me on and yes like giving me views and subscribers and all of those pieces of the puzzle that are definitely a piece of your puzzle. But it's also an ownership that someone's taking on of the true depth of your heart of why you're doing what you're doing, which you can't replicate a community. The community kind of does come to you, and you have to create the space for them to feel welcomed and to feel grateful to be a part of what you've created. So hats off to a successful marketing space to be able to then create this community, which is super
Thanks.
cool.
I mean, I'm not too proud to say like on one hand I've done a lot, but on another hand it's some really dope people rallying around me. Like the community is awesome, the people are awesome, and when you get really up close and personal with the environmental crisis, like it's really easy to think that people just suck and like people are just out to get the earth. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, if you then like look at the community that like the Trash Panda community for me, that I've been able to create, but that also has just come and rallied with me. Like it's a lot easier to believe in people too. So, for people who don't know disc golf, a great example would be disc golf courses are randomly littered with a bunch of trash. Often they're part of like public parks. And so disc golfers will leave trash and random people will leave trash.
Mhm.
And I've played for 12 years, like I said, and I've played with and I have been the person that has just complained about there being trash. And then now that I like remind myself of what it looks like, it's mind blowing. But like I can envision myself years ago playing disc golf, looking at a piece of trash, complaining about it, and walking on and doing nothing about it. And that is mind blowing to me now because I pick up trash while I play. And I've encouraged people to do the same. And like, I get messages daily from people picking up trash. I get people talking about how the course is cleaner around them because they went out and took a bag while they were playing and stuff like that. And like, I've picked up trash on a course and picked up, hundreds of pieces of trash. But I also know that in the last 2 days, hundreds of people played that course. And if everyone picked up one piece of trash, what would have changed, right? And so it reminds me of the story of there was a guy walking on a beach and it was just littered with starfish. And this little girl was walking and throwing one by one the starfish back into the water.
Mm.
And he walked up to her and was like, "What are you doing? Like, do you see this beach? Like, it's miles of starfish. You're never going to have an impact." And she just kind of like looked back down, picked one up, threw it into the ocean, and said, "Had an impact for this one.
Mhm.
Did it again, had an impact for this one."
Mhm.
And I just think of like, not only do I envision myself as that little girl, or that I want to be that little girl who's making an impact, but I also see a tribe of people now around me who are on that beach, walking forward, throwing that trash, because at the end of the day, not throwing the trash, throwing the starfish, but at the end of the day, like we're making an impact together. And like you said, one person becomes 10 people, becomes 10,000.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It's so cool. It's so epic. Okay, so I have one last thought-provoking question that I do want to get to, but before I do, I want to talk about two initiatives that you have started just to kind of help paint the picture for people in terms of like the actual action steps that you have provided for your community to really participate in the Trash Panda community. And one I have right here on my water bottle. I have my fill it forward barcode, and so this is the Trash Panda logo. And then this barcode is actually something that I scan every time I fill up this 32-ounce water bottle, reusable water bottle with water. And what Jesse created was this partnership between Philip Forward and Trash Panda to allow his community to participate in helping to stop the use of plastic and not using plastic water bottles, but instead inspiring the use of reusable water bottles. And what you do is you scan this barcode on now my water bottle, and that scan then turns into dollars and cents that are providing financial means for initiatives that have to do with solving the water crisis, providing education, different initiatives that have been really cool to be a part of. And all it's taking is me to scan a barcode immediately
Yeah.
after I fill up my water bottle. So that initiative is super cool, and people are still able to snag those barcodes. I know you sold out of those very quickly. I was in the second wave.
Yeah, we sold out very quickly of those, but I've restocked completely. We're good to go. And just also add one more element is, the single-use plastic bottle versus a reusable water bottle. It actually in the app also tracks your impact. So it calculates. So for you, Corey, it says, okay, here's your 32-ounce bottle. Every time you scan, we're going to calculate how much waste would have gone to a landfill or would have gone in, possibly polluted the oceans or something like that. We're going to give you those numbers so that you can understand what an impact you're making. And Oh yeah, it also donates to bring clean people water around the world. And that's just incredible. And the donation doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from you. It comes from like their corporate partners, but
Mhm.
it's unlocked by me scanning and stuff like that. So
Cool.
it's an awesome, and by the way, that's entirely Philip Forward. Like they're an incredible company doing incredible things. And I mean, just to talk about the community real quick, one of my subscribers told me about them. Like I didn't find them. I didn't know about who they were. One of my subscribers did. They mentioned them to me, and we developed a really rad partnership. So yeah,
So cool. And the other one, I'm gonna actually let you describe because I think it's really interesting in terms of like the community of disc golf and how you guys are using old discs to then create the Trash Panda towel
yeah,
that you know you describe it, but what the essence of it is super cool from the sense of like you being able to reuse an old disc that isn't flyable anymore, not playable anymore,
yeah.
in the game, but then turning it into something that is useful for your game. But as an
Cool.
example of how you are aligning with brands to be able to do so. So can you describe that a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, so that's another super rad company called Flight Towel, all one word. They they take discs, cut out this little section that you can hold on to, and then a towel comes off of that. It allows you to warm up your throw, and the towel brings like drag and resistance, so you can like really get a good warm up. But then at the same time, it doubles as a towel because when you're playing disc golf and your disc goes into the grass that's morning dew or like
Mhm.
into the water or whatever, you can dry it off or it gets muddy, whatever, so it doubles as a towel. And I getting in Trash Panda, one of my goals was to bring sustainability to companies that were already in disc golf. So I looked at that one and I was like, they're cutting up perfectly good discs to make a product. This seems whack to me. What if they would use used discs? So I contacted them. We got on a call. We started talking at the very beginning of this year, and they actually use discs that can't be sold by the manufacturers that are produced with defects or blemishes or something like that, which is incredible. And they care deeply about the environment. So they're like already a company that's a product. I thought they were using new virgin plastic that could otherwise be used. They were using something that was destined for the landfill already. And
Mm.
so, and then they were like, yes, let's use used discs as well. Like, let's do a whole line. And so we started a line of basically taking discs that have, whether it's a crack or a big dent or something happened to the disc that doesn't make it consistently usable.
Mhm.
Um, we make this product out of, and yeah, we can't really keep up with demand on that one either because it keeps selling.
It's so cool. Like the partnerships that you've created are just they make sense. And they also are just allowing your community to participate in it. I'm just, I'm keeping my fingers crossed to continue the momentum of that sellout mentality because
For sure.
that there are people who are wanting to participate is like the best thing ever. And again, goes back to the community that you've built and all of that. So, dude,
And
it's
that's, I
awesome.
mean, that's the environmental thing. At the end of the day, a lot of people just aren't thinking about it. And if
Yeah.
you put it in front of their face and say, hey, there's a problem, and here's a really simple step you can take, people are rallying around it. People are going, oh, I'm in. Like, let's go. And so, yeah, thanks for highlighting those. Those are two fun ones. And I've got more stuff in the works that I'm really excited about because the companies that exist in the disc golf space care about it too, and they're interested in trying to do stuff as well. So it's been fun.
It's so cool. Okay, Jesse, I have one final question for you before we sign off. This has been awesome.
Thought-provoking question, and
This this
I'm
is
nervous about it.
no. You're good. You're good. Okay, so my question for you, and I ask every guest this question at the very end of the interview. I want to know: did your 1 year ago self believe that you could be here 1 year later?
No, I don't think so. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Like looking back, I see all the strings, I see it all connecting. I see like all of the stepping stones to get here, but like I mean, a year ago, this wasn't even in my mind as what I was going to do. And, also that guy who was hanging on the injection machine saying this thing's going to break me. Like, I don't think he believed either that it was going to get here. So, yeah. And to be very frank, also, like, I didn't expect that 10,000 would be 10,000 actual people ready to rally. Whereas, like, I kind of thought it would be 10,000 people kind of passively supporting, kind of just like, oh, I'll follow and I might get inspired. Like, it's turned into 10,000 people who are actually genuinely interested in what's going on. And so for me, that's also something I didn't see either. So yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I believe that I could do something rad, but I didn't see it happening in 1 year. 365 days, no way.
That's so cool. I mean, the reason I love that question is because the content of your answer, like, the answer is no, you didn't. But we can all sense the emotion behind, like, the authenticity of your drive to make it the best that it has become to be, and to know that you started out the year in a place of, you know, in a way jobless and
Yeah.
needing to create. And I know firsthand, like, being a pioneer of something is very difficult and lonely. And to know that, like, you went through the whole roller coaster and then ended up in a place, you know, right now that you still have so much upward mobility to be able to create impact and to create larger community, that it's just exciting for me to you know,
For sure.
follow along. And also, like I said before we started the interview, like, I'm just excited for a year from now when we hop back on this call and I get to hear about, like, the fact that you have, you know, 400,000 subscribers and like everyone is now, you know, has a flight towel in their hand and they're using reusable water bottles and constantly picking up trash on disc golf courses. Like, I know that that's, like, what the future is going to be, and I'm just cheering you on all the way around and all the way through. So I'm stoked for you, man.
I also just thank you. I mean, having a community around me before starting it was really important, and I would be remiss not to say in this conversation that, like, a year later, looking back and seeing, like, a strong wife who's just, like, the greatest person in the world supporting the hell out of me, like, that is, if I got here today, it's really her. Like, she's done so much for me, and she did it, like, exactly a year ago, and she was like, start something. You've always wanted to do it, and she's fully supported it. So my wife Kelly is the best, and yeah.
Shout out to Kelly, honestly, for the permission to just be the best version of yourself, which is just the
For
coolest
sure.
thing. It's so
For
cool.
sure.
Well, thanks, Jesse, for being on here today. I know everyone will be very inspired by this. I know the episode ran a little bit longer, but there was so much gold in the story that you are telling with your life that I didn't want to cut it any shorter. So thank you for being here, and thank you for inspiring everyone.
Dude, my pleasure.
All right, everyone. Well, that was our episode today for 1YL. I hope you guys got a ton out of it. Make sure you click the links below. I'm going to link a bunch of Trash Panda stuff on this video. As well, follow at Trash Panda on Instagram, because you're not going to want to miss some of the rad things that he's doing. I know you'll be constantly inspired in the next 365 with what he is doing. So until then, as you all know, a new episode every day in the month of April. Tune in tomorrow for another awesome episode. Until then, we'll see you guys later.